You have found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the injury updates to Lonzo Ball and Jalen Smith and who from the Chicago Bulls bench needs to step up the most with these two important bench players out for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to get into all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Now, I expected to give this at some point in time, right? And I'm not even saying exactly with Lonzo Ball or with Jalen Smith specifically, but we know it's not a Chicago Bulls season, and for the most part, any NBA's team season, until you have to weather your first longer-term injury. Now, this isn't a major injury to either of these players. I want to be clear there. Lonzo Ball, he suffered a sprained wrist, which is going to leave him out for 10 days. This was initially reported as him being questionable for today's game against the Orlando Magic, before a couple hours later it was upgraded, I should say, downgraded. Downgraded is the word? Downgraded is probably the word there. Downgraded to him being out for 10 days. This means that the Bulls are going to be without Lonzo Ball for about 6 or 7 games, depending on when he comes back. One of the key dates to look out for that, I think, is a game on the 11th against the Cleveland Cavaliers at home in Chicago. That's where he could make his return back to the Chicago Bulls. Could be a day earlier than that, a game earlier than that as well. That happens a couple days before that. But just depending on how safe this Bulls front office really wants to play it safe with Lonzo Ball. And that's really what this is more than anything, is that the Bulls' new medical staff, and God bless their souls, right? Because as Bulls fans, we know that we have had a very long and tenuous relationship with the medical staff of the Chicago Bulls. Hell, the medical staff of the Bulls almost killed Luol Deng. Then do you remember Jeff Tanaka waddling his butt out there like the penguin and looking at Chris Dunn after he fell on his face and had teeth on the floor? There were teeth that came out of Chris Dunn's mouth that were on the floor, and Jeff Tanaka was out there with this little medical bag looking like, oh, well, maybe we can do something there, right? So we have had such a medical staff that we just have not been able to trust for years and years and years. So this medical staff playing it really safe with Lonzo Ball, considering all things that go into there, I'm not too mad at. Luckily, it's not the knee, and shame on Bleacher Report, shame on ESPN that when the thing initially came out, they just Lonzo out 10 days with injury. You know exactly what people are going to think the moment you see injury and Lonzo Ball's name in the same sentence. And for the irresponsibility of posting that, giving people alerts to just say Lonzo Ball out 10 days with injury. Come on. Yeah, come on. Did you want to send Bulls fans everywhere into a panic? We got to be better in how we do that. But I will say this. I'm happy overall that it's nothing serious with Lonzo Ball. It's a sprained wrist. The Bulls medical staff are just playing it safe with Zoe, mainly because, listen, as a player who has been out for as long as Lonzo's out, and getting dings and things like that is going to happen, right? And I'd rather Lonzo sit now and let that sprain completely heal up than him play 3 or 4 games with the sprained wrist, and then it may turn into something if he gets it slapped again or anything more long-term. And then, of course, getting Lonzo a little bit of extra rest is never going to be a bad thing either when it comes down to it, right? So, that's a good thing when it's all said and done. Playing it safe with Lonzo, playing it safe overall with your players at this early part of the season. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, we want to see him out there. Yeah, you want to see the team continue to get in rhythm. But this season is a marathon. We're 4 games into an 82-game season. There's 78 of these games left. And if Lonzo Ball misses 5 or 6 games, it's okay, right? And more so than anything, it's more positivity in what's going on with Lonzo. He's looked great. He hasn't been hesitant. He's looked like Lonzo Ball as close to it as you can get. And that's the biggest thing. And so this medical staff wanting to play it safe with Lonzo, overall, I'm not too mad at. Now, Jalen Smith with a sprained ankle being out. I won't say that it's more concerning than Lonzo being out 10 days. Jalen Smith, as of right now, still listed as questionable. He could very well play today. Again, with how this medical staff has played these injuries so far, kind of expect him to go ahead and sit personally in this first game. Now, that does change some things. And in the next segment, we'll talk about who needs to step up from the bench with these guys out for the Chicago Bulls. But I think just overall, like with big guys, lower body injuries, you already want to play it a little bit safe there, in my opinion, right? You want to play it a little bit more safe because, you know, while he's not a 7-footer, he's 6'9" with an over 7-foot wingspan. His athleticism has been one of the biggest reasons why he's been so impactful for the Bulls. Like, yes, he's a great per minute productive player for the Bulls, and you can't take that away from him. But his ability to leap, his ability to hit the three-point shot, his athleticism to catch lobs from Lonzo and Josh Giddey, things like that, have been a huge important role or a thing that has made Jalen Smith such a perfect fit for what he's doing for this Bulls team. And so I can understand them playing it safe with him as well, right? Because the last thing you want is a big guy with the ankle, a foot, or a knee injury. Anything lower body, you don't want a big man with those type of injuries at all, because if you get it, it's ugly. It tends to linger on as well. And that's where you get into an area where then you're instead of sitting a player for a game or two, you're now seeing a player, you're now in a place where you end up having to sit them for a week to heal up a severely sprained ankle where, you know, you could have just played a little bit more safe. So overall, not too mad at it. Injuries are going to come. They're part of every season for every NBA team. And it's about the next man up mentality, right? It's about how you weather that storm. But what are we missing with these guys, right? You already know Lonzo Ball and his playmaking and what that's meant for the Bulls. I think especially for the young guys has been really important. Having that 1-2 punch of Lonzo and Josh Giddey out there at all times, being able to really run that offense, get other players in position. Then you get the added dynamic of Lonzo with his three-point shooting. I guess in a way you also got to talk. Josh Giddey shooting the three ball at a 45% so far this season. That's crazy. That's crazy that Josh Giddey's doing. Josh Giddey can make three-pointers, but nonetheless, Lonzo's decision-making, his basketball IQ, his versatility defensively, his IQ defensively as well. That's why you see a lot of times when the Bulls do spark a defensive kind of run there, a lot of times Lonzo's on the court, and it's not necessarily just because of Lonzo guarding the defender, but it's Lonzo's ability to communicate on the defensive side. With Alex Caruso gone, we don't really have that communicator out there that's keeping everybody together on that defensive side of the ball. So Lonzo now has stepped into that role as he did before he got ever hurt with the Bulls. So, you know, you're missing something there. And, you know, that's going to be an important part of it. And while Lonzo's stats aren't jumping out the stat sheet at you, he's not even shooting the ball overly effectively, but you know teams got to play Lonzo, right? The teams, I don't care that Lonzo's only shooting 35%, 33% from three right now. Every team in the NBA knows if Lonzo gets hot, it could be a long night for her. So he's extending that defense out as well. And that's something that you're going to have to overcome. Jalen Smith, we know what Jalen Smith brings. He's one of the best per minute producers. That's the word I'm looking for. Producers in the NBA through this early part of the season. And the Bulls just don't have a lot of big man depth as well. So missing both of these guys is really important. It could really hurt the Chicago Bulls, but, you know, we'll see. We got a comment here from Vern. Says, sucks that 10 days off for Lonzo leads to overreactions from fans all over, and not just Bulls fans either. But that's where we are now with his career, I guess. Oh, that's a fact. I've already seen the comments over on Central of Bulls fans like, oh, wow, the Chicago Bulls are actually trying to hide a more serious knee injury. Do you know that they can get fined? Did you not just see what happened with the Philadelphia 76ers? If the NBA finds out that you're trying to hide an injury by reporting it as something else, you will get fined. What does Jerry Reinsdorf love more than anything? Money. Money. We're not about to get fined for misreporting an injury. Then, of course, you hear the people that are like, oh, well, they just wanted to get him some extended rest. You don't have, the not playing back-to-backs are specifically for star-level players. I know people like to talk about Lonzo as if he's a star level player, but there's a criteria to meet for that. He has not been an all-star. The NBA isn't going to come cracking down on the Chicago Bulls where they need a fake an injury if they just wanted to get Lonzo Ball more rest. So, it's always going to be conspiracy theories around a Lonzo injury. That's just what comes with the territory. But what's coming with the territory for the Chicago Bulls now is that they have to figure out who's going to step up from the bench for the Bulls with Lonzo and potentially Jalen Smith out. We're going to talk about both those things. But first, we got to get into a message from Game Time. All right, Bulls fans, man. Game Time, you guys already know, is one of the best places to get all your tickets for every single live event. Stop staying in the house. I know it's about to start getting cold, especially in Chicago, but don't stay in the house because your lady will leave you if you don't get out and do nothing with her. Take her out sometime. Game Time can help you find great tickets on all the events, comedy shows, theater, concerts. It's not just sports. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Plus, if you toggle the all-in pricing on, this feature will show you the total upfront, so there's no surprise fees at checkout, so you can't blame being broke on not knowing the price of the tickets. Curation makes it easy to save more on sports, comedy, concerts, theater, and more. Plus, with Game Time's lowest price guarantee, if you find tickets in the same seat and section for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Bulls fans. So that leaves us to talk about who steps up in the absence of Lonzo Ball for sure and potentially Jalen Smith. Now, I'm going to start off with Jalen just because he may end up playing still, but I do think that Jalen it's a couple of different ways that Billy Donovan could go with replacing Jalen Smith. One thing that we've seen Billy Donovan use, and that's actually been working defensively, is Patrick Williams playing small ball center. He's been doing an excellent job guarding centers. He's been doing an excellent job guarding bigs in general so far on this NBA season. And so naturally, Billy Donovan, he could go to a more small ball route, right? But here's what I personally want to see. I'm going to be clear here. Do I think this will happen? That would include me trusting Billy Donovan. What do we not do by any circumstance is trust Billy Donovan to play bigs. But you got Adama Sanogo sitting right there. We are still a couple of weeks away from the opening of the G League season. What does that mean? Adama Sanogo is there traveling with you. What does Adama Sanogo bring to the Chicago Bulls? Is he as athletic as Jalen Smith? No, he's not. But what he brings is a solid 6'9", 245-pound center that can bang with the centers in the NBA. Now, there are some stylistic questions. Can he play in the more up-tempo offense? Is he going to be able to do that, or is he going to slow the Bulls down a little bit too much? My answer to that is Nikola Vucevic has been playing pretty damn good on this team, and Adama Sanogo looks like a gazelle next to Nikola Vucevic. So you better damn well adapt. That's my response to that. Adama Sanogo is a player that, while it's very different, he's not going to bring the three-point shooting that Jalen Smith brings, but he is a big that can get you rebounds. He can get you block shots. He's a smart passer. He's not a great passer as far as he's not like Jokic or even Vooch with the passing, but he's smart. He knows, hey, if I'm not getting position, let me kick this ball back out to one of my guards, and I'm going to set this screen. He can help you get open. And I think Adama Sanogo, when you pair that with what Billy Donovan has already talked about, Billy out his mouth has said, Adama is somebody who's ready for NBA minutes. I think that he's done enough at the G League level. Play Adama Sanogo. Billy Donovan. Billy, look at me. Look at me. This is me and you right here, bro. This is me and you right here. Play Adama Sanogo. Play Adama Sanogo. Play him. You got a 22-year-old big there who's been in your system, who literally, I'm not saying you got to run the offense through him. Play him 10 minutes. Play him an 8-minute stretch. Give Adama Sanogo a chance. I beg of you. Do it. What's going to happen, man? Like, come on. He's already 6'9" and still a small ball center. Billy Donovan, play Adama. Play him. He won't play him. He's not going to play him. He's not going to play him. He's just not going. He's not going to play him. So, there you go on that one. But I think other than that, right, you're looking at a lot of small ball options. Torrey Craig's there as a small ball center option. Billy Donovan has already used them at that previously. Like I said, Patrick Williams, even Julian Phillips maybe has some small ball center options there. But, Jalen Smith is going to be something to replace. You're not going to replicate exactly what Jalen Smith brings. So it means that you're going to have to play a little bit differently. And is Billy Donovan ready to do that to get you into your place? That's what you have to ask yourself, right? And we'll see what Billy Donovan does in that case. If he plays Adama Sanogo, I personally think, like I said, at the end of the day, give him a 4-minute stretch. If in that 4-minute stretch he's drastically hurting you, you don't have to play him again. But give Adama a chance and an opportunity if Jalen's not out there, right? Now, with that said, Lonzo Ball. And the reason why I wanted to talk about who steps up in replace of Jalen first is because it's a little bit more difficult. When it comes to Lonzo Ball, we've done it, right? We've had games where Lonzo Ball isn't there. Typically, what changes in games where Lonzo isn't there is instead of seeing Josh Giddey or Zach LaVine with that second unit, you see Kobe White he's the guy that staggers with that second unit. That gives you some minutes of him and Ayo Dosunmu together, which I do think is something you want to see a little bit more of, is Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White out there together on the same court. And so I think there's an easier route to bring some of that. That could mean increased minutes for Manas Busilis. It could mean increased minutes for Dalen Terry. It could mean we could start back seeing THT over these next 10 days with Lonzo Ball out. But either way, like one of the benefits of this team is that our passing, right? We are, as far as assist percentage, 63 assist percentage, we're in the top 3 of the league as far as moving the ball around. You have to keep that going. And not having Lonzo out there definitely impacts and affects that. But I think with the amount of guards that we have in Kobe, Ayo, right? Those guys were ready to step up. Josh Giddey, who's averaged about 27 minutes. Maybe you see uptick in his minutes. You got Dalen as well there, who can do some. I trust Dalen Terry's passing in transition, not necessarily in the half court, but you have that there as well. So there's a lot of different avenues that they can go. Yeah, Vaughn says, oh, crap, you're right. He's definitely playing Craig as a backup 5. Listen, it's Billy Donovan, man. It's Billy Donovan. So I could see Billy Donovan looking at 6'7" Torrey Craig and 6'9" Adama Sanogo and being like, the 6'7" guy. That's my center right there, right? So, it is what it is when it comes down to it, man. DJ Lovelace has to stop doing fentanyl. He got to stop. It's bad enough you got the villain pick. You think DJ Stewart, like, come on, bro. How long have you been a Bulls fan? You know damn well, a G League player, Billy Donovan ain't finna trust that, bro. Come on, what we talking about, man? Maybe Duarte dresses because last game he hasn't. I don't know if he gets in, though. I'd rather see him than Carter. Listen, Javon Carter, you see I didn't talk about Javon Carter. And Chris Duarte is just as bad. No, Chris Duarte, I already told you guys, Chris Duarte and Javon Carter need to be the best ball boys, the best water boys, the best everything in the league right now. They need to lead the league in triple doubles and got them and high fives for your teammates as they come off. They need to be the best cheerleaders. Matter of fact, Javon Carter and Chris Duarte are really just an extension of the Lovables. That's really what they are. They're just an extension of the cheerleaders. That's their job out there. They're just an extension of the cheerleading group. They are unofficial Lovables. That's what they are. That's what they gonna be. That's it. That's it. At least Chris Duarte 2 for 2 from 3. I don't care if he was 5 of 5 from 3. Keep Chris Duarte sitting down. Torrey Craig's listed at 6'5". Did he shrink? Torrey Craig's listed at 6'5" now. That's crazy. Anyway, with that said, man, it's going to be by committee when it comes to replacing what Lonzo Ball brought to this team. And I do think that, like I said, while it changes the style, I do think Adama Sanogo is ready to at least get an opportunity if Jalen doesn't play for him to kind of show what he can bring and what he can do at an NBA level. That's just my personal opinion. We'll see what Billy Donovan does tonight. For all we know, it may not even be a thing. Jalen Smith may suit up today. That ankle may be heavily taped up, and we can see what happens there, man. Did you see the Lovables are now branded as the Incredibles? What? They rebranded the Lovables? That's criminal. That's really criminal. Anyway, next up, we're going to talk about Zach LaVine's performance so far in the season for the Chicago Bulls right after this. All right, Bulls fans. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in to Locked on Bulls every single day. 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's when the show goes down. Y'all make sure y'all tell everybody that Locked on Bulls is live now so they can tune in, show up, and go ahead and fellowship with us while we're here. But with that said, man, I want to talk a little bit about Zach LaVine's performance so far at the start of the season. And no, for my trade fanatics, I'm not talking about this so that we can talk about and segue into Zach LaVine trade scenarios. That's not what we're talking about. I want to make sure everybody is clear, right? Everybody is clear. Zach LaVine is hooping. 26 points per game on 45% shooting, 8.8 three-point attempts per game. Listen, he's making 65.6% of his 2-point shots, 45% of his 3-point shots. Zach LaVine is hooping. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with his own shortcomings. Zach LaVine assist to turnover ratio is horrendous, but that's uplifted by having 2 games of 7 turnovers, right? So we know that that's a thing. I think that it just solidifies what we've already known about Zach LaVine. He doesn't need to be the ball handler bringing up the ball in the half court. That's what you got point guards for. That's it. But when you look at Zach LaVine and how he's been performing so far for the Chicago Bulls team, it's his offense and it's also the efficiency of the offense for Zach LaVine. Zach has been efficient. You take away those turnovers, he has been one of the most efficient players in the league. And you got to also look at the fact that Zach LaVine, still not a lockdown defender by any stretch of the imagination, but he's also been engaged defensively. There's only been a handful of plays where I've been like, there goes a Zach LaVine fell asleep play. There goes a Zach LaVine wasn't paying attention play on defense. But for the most part, Zach is locked in. And a Zach LaVine that is locked in has been an all-star before, but it's so important to what this Bulls team does. Zach LaVine right now has a 25.5 usage percentage on the Chicago Bulls. That means 25% of the plays that the Chicago Bulls are running are ending in either Zach LaVine scoring or a pass from Zach LaVine or assist from Zach LaVine. Now, we do want Kobe White and Zach LaVine's their usage rate to kind of start evening out at some point. Kobe has had 2 extremely cold games out of the Bulls' 5 games, so that kind of plays a part into that as well. But as of right now, what we're seeing from this team is, from Zach LaVine, I should say, is Zach is balling. And he's doing that while also Nikola Vucevic is balling. Kobe White still, even with Kobe White's cold games, he still has a usage rate of 23%. So that means that almost 50% of the Chicago Bulls' offensive plays are either ending in Kobe White or Zach LaVine scoring, or one of the two of them dishing out for an assist. That's huge, right? And we talked about how the 1A, 1B, that dynamic between Kobe and Zach LaVine needed to be on point, but Zach had to buy in and be unselfish, and he's done that. Then you also add in the fact that Nikola Vucevic is having a career year for the Chicago Bulls with 20 points, 10 rebounds on over 50% shooting from 3 and from the field. And he has a 21% usage rate. 75% of the Chicago Bulls offense are coming from these 3 players. But the difference than what it's been before, when it was DeMar, Vooch, and Zach, is that they are still getting everybody involved. The Chicago Bulls are averaging almost 29 assists per game. That puts them in the top 3 of the league. So this isn't a team that is doing it through isolation ball. This is a team that's doing it through everything coming together and the synergy that's happening between these players on the basketball court. And that's something that cannot be understated. That's something that I do not want to be overlooked, that the Bulls offense has truly evolved. And a big part of that is Zach LaVine buying in while still also being very, very impactful. So that's just what you got to look at, man. I love the fact that Zach LaVine has been playing this way to start the season, especially after an offseason of Zach LaVine being absolutely talked down about and how he can impact the game of basketball. And this isn't about trades. This isn't about to say that the Bulls can end up getting off his deal and teams can get back in on the Zach LaVine market or anything like that. It's just to acknowledge that Zach LaVine is playing really well right now. Really well. And keep in mind, this is with 3 out of the 4 games so far for Zach LaVine. He's had bad second halves. But there have been halves where he understands, hey, let me slow down on shooting and let me start getting other players involved. Let me still go out and get these rebounds, right? That's a big thing for Zach. And I love to see that Zach LaVine it seemed like this version of Zach, not what he's done before, but this version of Zach specifically on this team is really important to make this Bulls offense run. And we'll see if they can do it tonight, because the Bulls got a huge test tonight against the Orlando Magic, and this offense is going to be tested against that Orlando Magic team. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Locked On Bulls. By the way, your favorite podcast, Locked On Bulls, now has a daily newsletter. It's your one-stop shop for the ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to start your day with the all-new free Locked On Bulls newsletter. It's free. It ain't even no ads on it. It's free. It's free. Go and support your boy. But you guys can follow me at CEO Haize, man. We will be live tonight after the game. I'm going to try to get a surprise guest, and no, not Pat, the designer. I'm going to try to get a surprise guest, and we'll see what we bring you guys. But I will see you guys tonight after the game. Love you guys. Go Bulls. See you, Red. Peace.